The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. How's it going out there today, boys and girls in sporting land? Just wanted to jump in here real quick and touch on a unique topic that I thought about today. Before I get to all that, though, I'd like to mention a couple of polls that I ran a few days back. One was of these 5 teams, which one would be most likely to end their drought as far as being a national champion? It has to be 10 years or more, and I listed Oklahoma, Notre Dame, USC, Florida, and Miami as candidates. And it seems as though Oklahoma is the overwhelming choice as the team that might break their drought first. As you know, Oklahoma hasn't won a national championship since 2000. And the other poll was the most underrated sports movie of all time. When I say underrated, I mean that it's a great movie, but not many people talk about it in the same breath as other great sports movies. And so far in this poll, it's still early on, but we have a tie right now from what I've seen last. It was The Replacements and Varsity Blues tied. So those are the 2 polls out right now. Now let's get to the topic that I want to talk about, and that is LSU and why they should have possibly been what Alabama is now. LSU could have possibly been the dynasty if a certain number of things have broke the right way. So let's talk about it. Another episode of Outlaw of College Football. That's me, the OCF, also known as JPC. Maybe we should call this show The Common Joes and Sally's in the Know. Maybe I should change the name. What do y'all think? Because this is the home of the Common Joe and Common Sally in the Know, even more so than all those media talking heads. That's right. Now, getting right to it. LSU Football has won the 2nd most national championships this century, only behind Alabama. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of those naysayers and a lot of those haters out there of the SEC always try to say that the SEC is top-heavy, when in actuality, that's ass backwards. It's actually the other conferences that are top-heavy. That's called deflecting, class. Because the SEC actually, in the last 25 years, I think has 5 or 6 national champions. Let's see, let's name them. Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. That's right, back in 1998. Tennessee was a part of the first de facto BCS title game before the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the Rose Bowl decided to get their ass involved. So, I would say that the SEC is not top heavy. And LSU has won 3 national championships in that time with an influx of coaches. They had no continuity with their coaching situation, with the exception of Les Miles. And I think the whole Les Miles tenure actually set them back. I think the worst thing that could have happened, and this is going to sound crazy, but the worst thing that could have happened was for them to have won that national championship back in 2000, was it 2007? I think it was, where a bunch of teams lost in the last week and allowed LSU to back into the national championship game and beat Ohio State with 2 losses. The last team to win a national championship with 2 losses. I think it might have been the worst thing for them, but even worse than that, I think, was when they came to Tuscaloosa in the supposed game of the century in 2011 and pulled off the upset 9-6 over Alabama. But then Alabama got the rematch and proved why that game in itself was probably a fluke. And LSU actually got pretty bit. I mean, the score is not very indicative because Alabama kicked so many field goals in that game, but they got pretty much dominated on that stage. And that was the beginning of the end, in my opinion, for Les Miles. But because it was a national championship game and he made an appearance in it and he won the SEC title that year, it gave him a little more collateral. And he was allowed to stay around for a few more years after that. And I think if that had not happened, if they had lost that first game in November instead of having to play Alabama in a rematch and getting embarrassed, I think if they went ahead and lost that first game in November, that LSU would have gotten rid of Les Miles eventually, a lot sooner than what they did. And they would have probably been able to get a coach that they were trying to get, and that's Jimbo Fisher, because at the time, Texas A&M was still having their little love affair with Kevin Sumlin in the Johnny Manziel years. And since Johnny Manziel left, we find out that Kevin Sumlin's not really that good of a coach. So Jimbo wouldn't have went to Texas A&M at that time. But Jimbo wanted out of Florida State even before he won a national championship there. There's always something there between him and the administration. They may not admit it, but there was some kind of friction and angst between Jimbo and the Florida State administration. And had they gotten rid of Les Miles a little bit sooner, which they probably should have, because the guy was just living off of what Nick Saban had left him, really. And probably one of the luckiest coaches I ever saw. I mean, out there eating grass and shit, and everybody thought it was cute until he lost to Alabama 8 years in a row. So let's say LSU gets rid of Les Miles earlier. They probably get Jimbo Fisher or even Dabo Swinney before he wins his 2 national titles at Clemson, because there has been rumblings and rumors that Dabo Swinney was at one time interested in coming to the SEC, either at Alabama or LSU. So if they had gotten one of those 2 coaches, things would have been significantly different for LSU. The amazing thing about LSU and its fan base is their resiliency and the fact that they can overcome all this influx as far as coaches goes and win national championships. They won one under Nick Saban, they won one under Les Miles, and they won one under old Eddie Ogre. You know, Alabama can't beat Alabama. He's better. Can't even understand what he's saying half the damn time. Sounds like former friend from damn Waterboy or some shit. And they can win a national championship under former friend's brother, whatever, then they could have won numerous national championships under a more consistent and more stable coaching direction than Les Miles, who now we find out Les Miles was covering up a lot of stuff and a lot of not so good stuff as far as sexual harassment goes. With all that stuff going on behind the scenes, it makes it hard for a team to really be a great team, because they know deep down inside that there's some shadiness going on with their coaching staff. So my thing is with LSU, like I said, is they can win 3 national championships under 3 different head coaches. Just imagine what they could have done if that game of the century never happens and LSU gets rid of Les Miles earlier, which they should have, in my opinion. I think that LSU could have won numerous national titles if they had just had the stability and the moralistically better guidance of a better coaching staff than what Les Miles had for all those years, where they always came up short and lost 2 or 3 games that they shouldn't have. And that's all I got to say about that. You guys and gals tell me what you think. You think LSU could have been a dynasty? And now, do you think they can finally get that stability? Because I think they could be. They still got that window of opportunity, especially with Nick Saban coming up on retirement. They could be the next dynasty if they play their cards right. I don't know if Brian Kelly's the answer, because he acts a little weird to me sometimes. But if they can just get that one coach and get that stability and that direction that they need, that strong base, that strong-spined coach in the future, I think LSU could be the dynasty. But they got to make the right hire. Maybe Brian Kelly's it. Maybe he's not. You guys and gals tell me in the comment section, like I said before. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.